So I'm in Ibiza, you might hear some birds. And that is because, not because I have the window open, which I don't, but because the birds are literally inside my house. Oh, let me get rid of this echo thing. Okay, should be much better. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about isolation, which is a topic that is very close to my heart. I brought it up the other day. Some people wrote to me saying that they would really like to hear what I think and some advice, some tips, what I can teach you from what I've learned. I think there is a lot of isolation nowadays because a lot of people work freelance, they work alone like myself. Well, even if you don't work alone, if you're a musician, you're generally really isolated because you're not with anybody else or you're with strangers a lot of the time. So the first thing I want to say is I'm calling this article I lived in Bohemia, and Bohemia was a lonely place. And that is because the danger of isolation is that you will become lonely. So what we're really talking about is loneliness. That's going to be the problem that we want to tackle. Because isolation in itself, in short amounts of time, it's okay, and you want to be able to be with yourself. But one thing that you need in order to be able to be with yourself is to love yourself and to respect yourself. And that in itself is a subject entirely. I have found that to respect myself, it's one of the hardest things. It's the challenge of my life, to feel like I've done enough and like what I'm doing is useful to humanity. That's my challenge. Maybe it's not yours, but I think this affects a lot of people, most people. So for me, what I have found true of that is have a very rigid schedule that you follow, where you include all the things that you need to do for you to feel good with yourself. In my case, that's working really hard and producing stuff. So accountability. Stuff that you can count and that you can tell to yourself and others that you've done. And the usual things. I'm not going to get into all of these, but eating fresh food, you need to find time and ways to do that. Taking care of yourself, getting dressed, looking good, that's really, really important to help with feeling good about yourself and to not get depressed, basically, because the danger of loneliness is that it makes you very depressed, and that in turn is going to lead you to addictions, which I have had many all the time. I think everybody has those problems. So, what are you trying to fix when you have addictions, for instance? You're trying to get some comfort, some nurturing, which you are missing. Because the thing is, we are social animals. We need to belong to something or to feel like we belong to something. We need that feeling of a tribe. So one thing that you can do if you are in isolation for whatever reason, obviously if you can actually get next to people every once in a while, even if you can't talk or interact with them in some ways, like I couldn't when I had my mouth injury and I just couldn't do anything, and that's what's been breaking me, because already I have a hard time with isolation, but when I can't even put time aside to do something with people and interact with them, it was complete, not only isolation, but just no interaction in any way, because you couldn't speak. I feel really bad now for people who can't speak. It really is a lot more challenging than I thought. So, you need to look for a group identity of some sort. I recommend doing something with people, something where you learn, maybe. So, for example, taking a language class, there's many things you can do. You can go to one of these meetups where they go to lectures. I like activities where there's something that you share with people, as in you're learning something, not just to get together for the sake of it, because that to me just feels like a waste of time, and in the end I just don't force myself to do it. So look for a reading class or a community that's interested in a subject that you like and that is going to hook you up with lectures on that subject. And that's something that you can do. In my case, I like that a lot. I go to lectures about philosophy. And the one thing that I do where every day or almost every day I am in contact with people and I get together with people that share my passion is yoga. That's my thing. So I go to a yoga studio. I go to several different ones because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like just going to one, it can get a bit cultish. So I go to a few. But many people like the fact of going to just one and then you know that you're going to meet the same people every day and they really know you and you talk about your life with them. I try to keep it a little bit of space, personal space. But I do need that reach. And then I do yoga, and for me yoga is also that thing that gives me the comfort, the nurturing that I don't have in my daily life because I don't have a companion that I live with. I don't live with family. I don't really have like an intimate friend that I see several times a week or very often. So as humans we need something or somebody. We need to feel like we're being taken care of, and that nurturing. So for me, yoga covers that. Maybe for you want to find something like, a lot of people like cooking classes or going to spas. I've never gotten into the spa thing. A lot of people like that, or a pampering in any way, like doing your nails, and maybe you establish a relationship with your nail girl, or going to the music shop or going to the comic shop and maybe you talk to the people there and you just hang out. Like I have a lot of friends. I used to do that. Just go to the music shop, say hi, see what's going on. A lot of the times in shops, people like to hang out because if you've ever worked at a shop before, you know that it's terribly boring. You're kind of by yourself all the time pretending that you care about customers, and you welcome that level of interaction with somebody. You almost don't even care what you're talking about. You just want to interact. So if you're ever at a shop, don't be afraid. I know sometimes we feel a bit afraid to disturb them while they're doing their job, but actually they will tell you if they're busy or they will ignore you, like in a coffee shop. So feel free to do something like that. What else? When you're busy. So if you are in isolation, obviously you're working, you might be working by yourself. Make sure that you divide your work time from your free time. This again is one of my biggest challenges, because nowadays especially our free time and our work time is both on the internet, kind of. Without the internet, a lot of these dangers go away. But if you're with a computer connected to the internet, it's just your social networks. It mixes up your emails. You get emails that are both personal and professional, and it's really, really difficult to compartmentalize, but you must. So be sure that you put aside those 4 hours with a break, or like 4 and 4, or 3 and 3, 8 hours of work that you gotta be doing, divided in however many breaks you need. And be sure that when you are working, you're really focused on working, because then you will feel like you've achieved something, like you've accomplished what you were meant to be doing. And then also you can relax and do something that you enjoy in your free time. So let's say that there comes a time where you can meet a friend or an acquaintance, or there's an activity that you can share. I have several thoughts on this. First of all, if you have a problem and you are okay with sharing it, it's actually not a bad idea to share it, at least a little bit. If you're sick, which enables you to do something different, or rather it limits you, then be open about that, because obviously that's going to affect the interaction completely. But if you're just in isolation because of your circumstances with your life, then when you do meet friends, for instance, in London, we live very far from each other because London is really big, so it's not that frequent that you will have neighbors that are your friends. So at least, you have to plan with a little bit of advance. I know it's like that in most big cities like LA, New York. When you do meet, I would say do something normal or share an activity, as opposed to meeting for drinks or to party. Because this has also happened to me. When people approach you, I guess if you're a girl this happens a lot, but maybe also if you're a guy, people often approach me to hang out for drinks or like invite me to parties. And that's fine, but that has led me to very, very tragic phases of my life where I was into all kinds of addictions because I just wasn't finding myself. Because when you're in party mode, I feel like I'm not the same person, or I just don't. I'm putting on a facade of being this amazing, glamorous vixen, and that's great, and you can have that as a release. But if all the interaction that you have with your friends, in inverted commas, because are these people really your friends? If all the interaction that we have with people is to hang out at party events, first of all, you're always dressed up. You always are done. You're wearing makeup. It's a part of yourself that, as much as it's true, is not all of yourself. And you might feel still very vulnerable and even a little bit awkward about the you that's not that you. And I have been in situations where the people that knew me only from parties, I almost didn't really want to meet them during the day because I look so much different. And I'm just not, I don't feel like I'm that person, and I'm in flats and I look like shit. I do other kind of things. I'm very quiet. I think we're all like that. We have this polarity where we have a time where we just want to scream, and then we have a time where we're just super chill. And maybe the people who want to do one thing don't want to do the other, or it just gets messy. I think it's healthier if you have friends that you can do both things with. And I would suggest doing that from the beginning with a friend. So just suggest it. You have nothing to lose. Suggest to your friend that the next time you meet, you're going to do an activity during the day. Even just meeting during the day will help to make it an activity that's more like family friendly. I don't know, family time. Even if your family is not there, you can have family time with friends. And that usually involves things like more casual things, like having a bite, having a coffee. Even, you know what? I love meeting friends when I'm running errands. And to this day, I haven't found anybody in London that wants to do that. I don't know if it's cultural, but like in Spain, I would constantly meet my best friends like, hey, I'm gonna pop to the supermarket to pick up some things to make for lunch. Do you wanna come with me? And they come with you, so you do two things at the same time. You don't feel like your running of errands is another time of isolation or time wasted. You catch up, you share things. If you think about it, we spend most of our free time running errands or cleaning or doing chores or all of that stuff. So if you can talk about that stuff, share it with somebody. Like, I would be totally fine if a friend said, hey, do you want to come help me clean my house, or help me water my plants, or help me go pick some underwear. I like doing that kind of stuff. Or, hey, let's go to the pharmacy together, I need to pick up some stuff. Just make whatever time you have or whatever activities you're doing, make them into a social outing with a friend. Like the other day, I went for it. I used to be really unsure about asking these things. But the other day I was heading to central London to return something, and I said to my friend, hey, I'm gonna go on the bike to central London. Do you want to come with me? Because it's a nice thing to do, I think. Even if our return is not the most exciting thing in the world, you get on the bike, you spend, I mean, in the case of London, 40 minutes together, so it's an actual excursion. And then maybe you go different ways or whatever. Try to involve people into what you're doing. It doesn't have to be errands though. You can go to the cinema. I like doing activities with my friends that I can discuss, that I can learn, that where there's some level of intellectual stimulation, because going out at night for drinks, that's a release, but that's not really stimulating in itself unless it becomes a really amazing night, which you never know if it's going to be amazing. It just takes a lot of time and energy, and then sometimes you waste the whole next day because you're hungover. It's just like, honestly, that feels a lot more like a chore to me than going to the pharmacy. So what else can I tell you? Oh yeah, in things that you can do if you don't have many friends, or if your friends can't meet and that's the reason why you're isolated a little bit, volunteering work. I think volunteering work, I don't want to say that it wasn't popular before, but in my head it's just getting really crucial with the whole climate paradigm, because we need to help. And I think the more of us that can get together to help, to go clean a beach or to do stuff that will help, make pamphlets, just get involved. So I think getting involved in a group, for example, I have been doing concerts for Greenpeace, planning them. I'm still in the planning stages. But things that would involve that community, that's a good community to tap into. And another thing I want to say about being alone is, you don't have time to meet your friends. I feel like we only text nowadays, and texting is a problem because it's too brief. It doesn't allow real phrasing. It certainly doesn't allow real conversations. And if it does, it shouldn't, because the tone doesn't get across. It doesn't feel like you've had an interaction with somebody. It almost feels like you're both trying to be too cool. And for many reasons, I think picking up the phone and calling is so much better. And I do it. The people that I truly care about, I call. And that's just it. And if I have a guy that I'm seeing, actually, there was a guy that I'm seeing, and when he texts me, because nowadays that's all people do, so he texts me, and sometimes I don't have time or I just don't care, and I text back. But when I care, when I want to actually give this person my time and my attention, I just call him. Like if he says something that requires, that's kind of like starting a conversation, and I wanna talk to him, I don't keep playing this game of sending a one-word text or a whatever 10 emoticon text. It doesn't matter. It's just silly. You just call the person. And another thing that I think is really important, and that this needs to be a shift in our cultural, social exchanges, is because nowadays we mostly are not with each other. A lot of us live alone. I think we should make Skype into a habit and treat it like an actual thing that needs to be done. If you don't have time to meet somebody, make time to Skype. Why do people feel so weird around Skyping? Or when I say Skyping, I mean just any sort of video conference exchange, which now happens everywhere. You can see someone on video on the phone, like FaceTime. You can call them on WhatsApp. I think there's video on WhatsApp as well. Don't feel weird about that. It's perfectly acceptable. It's very satisfactory. It's kind of like meeting in person. It's the closest thing you're gonna have to meeting in person. And you actually will feel like you have had an interaction with a human being when you do that. So make time. If you have a best friend that you can kind of schedule, I'm meant to have a schedule. I'm meant to see my best friend from Spain over Skype on Sundays, and I just forgot. So make sure you don't forget. Put it in your diary. And try and suggest it to people. You know, if you don't have, or even if you have time, instead of texting, say, hey, do you want to Skype? Or just right away, just call them on video. I have a friend from LA who's really cool about this. He calls me on video. And even though I haven't seen him in years, he's amazing at keeping contact. And I really appreciate that. And I want to be more like that. And I think we all have to be more like that. Because then, first of all, it's become more of an activity. If you can be on video with someone, you can do something at the same time. You know, you can be just hanging out. It doesn't feel so much like the phone. It's like you really have to be on top of the phone. Whereas with video, it's kind of like there's the video there. I'm just gonna sit you here. And second of all, it may trigger a meeting or a plan, because there's those spaces, those moments of contemplation, a little bit, not as much as in person, because obviously in person you can just sit in silence and contemplate for hours, which I love to do, but a little bit more than a phone or certainly a text would lead you to make. Over text, you would never come up with, oh, you know what we should do? We should like travel to Venice or whatever. It's just too cold and you don't know what the other person is gonna say. You're just, shit, maybe this didn't come at the right time for them, or you just don't know what time of their day, what they're doing, how they're feeling, if they're in a bad mood, if they're with someone else. You just have no idea. It's a real strange way of interacting. Whereas over video, you got them. It's like in person, it leads to that, to opening conversations. So I think we're doing pretty well with this topic. I think I've told you everything that I wanted to say as an introduction, at least. I'll keep you updated, but it certainly requires a little bit of thinking and work, because as I said, the dangers are many. We're not built for it. It's really a struggle. And I feel you. And you know, the good thing about it is that everybody will understand you if you're lonely, because we all are, or we all have been. So never be embarrassed or ashamed of being lonely or being in solitude and not liking it. Again, solitude, if you like it, I need solitude. That's one of the reasons why I'm alone a lot of the time, because I need it, so I end up not with anybody. So then I'm like, I needed it, but not quite 100% of the time. But it's a hard balance too. When you don't live with family or with a husband or something stable like that, it shouldn't feel forceful. Because at the end of the day, living with a family or a husband is also a choice. It's not like that's any more legit than living with friends or treating friends like family. I mean, what's the difference? But it does feel like somehow it's not as justified. Or like I think we all almost feel like with friends, we have to kind of entertain them. It's like we've all become, just like in Instagram and in social media, you know how we've all become our best version of ourselves, and it's like everything that we show has to be like perfect. We're perfect, we're having the perfect life, we're always happy. I feel like it's become like that in person too. Somehow the internet is affecting our real life instead of the other way around. So now when we go out at dinner, I was telling this to a model friend the other day, we both feel exhausted because we feel like we're there to entertain everybody, to be pretty, to be happy, to be laughing. And it's a job, honestly. And it's not nice anymore. So I think it's even more justified to hang out with people when you can just be yourself in any mode you are during the day, picking up stuff, doing what you do, because that's what you do most of the time anyway. So just do it with respect to yourself. Flaunt it. It's nothing strange. We all do it. So with that, I leave you. I hope you liked my little conversation, and tell me your experiences, please. How you feel, your tips. Are you isolated right now? Why? Like physically, mentally? Do you have a problem? You don't have to tell me your problems. And I'll see you later. Bye.